I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who ended up in a neighborhood war, but here we are, and I can tell you it all started with something as simple as a car charger on the side of my house. My name's Mark Reynolds. I'm an electrical engineer, and I've always lived my life by logic: circuits open or closed, voltage stable or not, cause and effect clear as day. But nothing in my textbooks ever prepared me for the twisted logic of a homeowners association president who thought my driveway was her personal gas station. It was about 2 in the morning when it first happened. My custom energy monitor, the one I built from scratch because I'm a nerd like that, went off screaming like a banshee. I jumped out of bed, checked the tablet on my dresser, and saw a spike so big it nearly cracked the graph. 48 amps, maximum load. But here's the kicker. My car was sitting fully charged inside the garage. I looked out the window, and there she was. She crossed her arms tighter and shot back. Or what? You gonna make a scene? Now I could have ripped the cord out right there, but I didn't. I went back inside, sat down with a notebook, and started sketching. If she wanted a war, I wasn't gonna shout about it, I was gonna out-engineer her. Over the next week, I turned my little car charger into Fort Knox. First came the steel lockbox with a combination lock. Then a hidden breaker up in the attic that could kill the charger dead if I wanted. But I didn't stop there. I wired in an RFID reader, so only the little card in my wallet or the tag on my wife and his phone could turn the thing on. No tag, no juice. And finally, I built what I call my black box. A small monitor that recorded every watt, every surge, every time the system tried to fire without permission. All the data went straight to a memory card, time-stamped to the millisecond. Anna walked into the garage while I was soldering wires and shook her head. "Is this really necessary?" she asked. I told her, when someone thinks community means whatever they can take, yeah, it's necessary. She sighed, kissed my shoulder, and said, "Just be careful. She's not gonna like being shut out." I smiled and muttered, "I'm counting on it." Sure enough, a week later she came back, only this time she wasn't in a robe sipping tea. She was dressed in black, creeping around my driveway like some B-list cat burglar. But instead of my charger, she went for a regular wall outlet I usually use for Christmas lights. And in her hand, I swear, was the cheapest, most dangerous knockoff adapter I'd ever seen. No safeties, flimsy wiring, just a plug on one end and a Tesla connector on the other. She jammed it into the outlet, forced the other side into her car, and for a second, she actually smiled like she'd beaten me. Then physics decided to give her a lesson. There was a sizzle like frying bacon, a flash of blue-white light, and then a pop that echoed down the street. Black smoke poured out, and a little orange flame flickered right on the side of her precious Tesla. I didn't even think. I grabbed the Class C fire extinguisher off my garage wall and ran out. She was frozen, wide-eyed, pointing at the fire like it was a ghost. I yelled at her to move, blasted the flame with powder, and just like that, it was out. I expected maybe some gratitude, or at least embarrassment. Instead, she turned those furious eyes on me and screamed, "You did this. You sabotaged my car." And before I could even answer, she lunged for my black box monitor, ripped the memory card right out, clutched it to her chest, and took off running across my yard. I dropped the extinguisher and chased her. She was fast for someone in house shoes, I'll give her that, but I was faster. Neighbors started poking out their doors. Tommy from 2 houses down yelled, "What's going on?" I shouted back, "She stole my property. She's framing me." Then, just as I was about to grab her, red and blue lights flashed down the street. A sheriff's deputy pulled up, hand on his sidearm, and suddenly Lydia turned into a damsel in distress. She threw her hands up, fake sobbing. "Officer, thank God you're here. He attacked me. He tried to burn my car." I forced myself to breathe slow, to be calm, logical. I told the deputy exactly what happened, who I was, where I lived, what Lydia had done. I pointed right at her clenched fist and said, "She's holding the evidence right now." The deputy narrowed his eyes, asked her to open her hand. She tried to shove it in her pocket, but finally she had no choice. Out came the little SD card. He bagged it as evidence, looked back and forth between us, and I could see in his face he'd seen this act before: the false tears, the wild accusations, the frantic attempt to flip the script. The next morning, things started rolling fast. The fire marshal's office confirmed exactly what I'd said. Her cheap adapter caused a short circuit, nothing to do with my wiring. Neighbors shared their security camera footage with me. One had the whole arc flash on video. Another caught her shrieking, "You set my car on fire," clear as day. I stitched all the clips into a 2-minute highlight reel, and when a local reporter called asking for an interview, I figured, why not? She wanted to see everything, so I showed her the permits for my solar system, the lockbox, the RFID tags, the whole setup. Then I sat her in front of my computer and hit play. She didn't say a word till it ended. Then all she said was, "Wow." That night, the news aired the piece, me as the quiet homeowner defending his property, her as the unhinged HOA president caught red-handed. Phones lit up across the neighborhood. People who'd been bullied by her for years fined for basketball hoops, warned about wind chimes, shamed over lawn height, they all started reaching out. By the time the HOA meeting rolled around 3 days later, the clubhouse was packed shoulder to shoulder. Usually you'd be lucky to get 10 people. That night it felt like half the town showed up. I walked in with my laptop and a small projector. Lydia sat at the head of the table, pale and shaking, but still trying to hold her chin high. She rushed through the agenda like she could escape before I spoke. When she tried to adjourn, I stood up and said, "I have new business." She snapped back, "You're not on the agenda." But the board members, seeing the crowd behind me, told her to let me speak. So I plugged in my projector, hit play, and let the video roll on the wall behind her. Gasps echoed through the room as people saw her sneaking around, saw the flash, heard her lies, watched her steal the evidence. I didn't need to say a word. When it ended, the silence was heavy, and all I said was, "This isn't about electricity. This is about abuse of power. This is about trust." Tommy stood up and seconded my motion for a vote of no confidence. One by one, hands went up, every single one, even the other board members. Lydia just sat there, eyes wet, lips trembling, but nothing came out. She was out, just like that. And before she stormed off, I added one last thing: restitution for the damage, and a restraining order to keep her 100 yards away from my home. The board nodded. The room erupted in applause, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Now, I'm not gonna lie, part of me felt satisfied watching justice play out, seeing logic win over lies. But another part of me couldn't help but think, how did we even get here? How does a neighbor turn into an enemy over something as small as a power outlet? Is it ego, power, entitlement? Maybe all of the above. So that's my story. What do you think? Was I right to fight back the way I did, or did it go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you've ever had a neighbor or an HOA cross the line. And don't forget to like and share this video so more people can weigh in. Because one thing I've learned, these little neighborhood battles say a whole lot about who we are and whose side of the line we're willing to stand on.